The global insurance industry is more than a market.
It's a movement powered by 3 million professionals around the world.
Together, we support communities as they rebuild after disaster.
Help businesses through risk and uncertainty.
Protect individuals as they plan for brighter futures.
This impact isn't possible without people.
That's why we attract, grow, and retain the very best talent.
Because when every voice is heard,
When every person feels they belong.
We don't just build careers.
We build a better tomorrow.
Belonging builds tomorrow.
Belonging builds tomorrow.
Belonging builds tomorrow.
Belonging builds tomorrow.
Belonging builds
Belonging builds tomorrow.
Belonging builds tomorrow.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's edition of It's Not Individual, It's the Game of Life. We are this year's dive-in committee who's created a game that focuses on neurodiversity and non-visible disabilities. I'm your host, Maxine Del Valle, but before we get started, this is a virtual game and we want you all to be engaged. So we've created a Slido QR code, the number is 270-6064, that will allow you to do just that. Use that code to send us your questions, comments, and ideas. You'll be able to find the code on the remaining game board slides at the bottom right-hand corner of each slide. We're hoping to have time at the end of the game to answer any questions, and for those who aren't able to use Slido, we apologize in advance for any inconvenience as this is our first season and still we're working out the kinks. We always have to ensure we mention our sponsor, the Dive-In Festival. This game is available because the Dive-In Festival, which consists of year-round activities that fosters education, identifies challenges, and develops actionable steps that can be taken by individuals and organizations. So let's get started by talking about neurodiversity. What is it? Harvard Health describes neurodiversity as the idea that people experience and interact with the world around them in many different ways. There is no one right way of thinking, learning, and behaving, where differences are not viewed as deficits. I've also heard it described as natural variances in the brain, which result in different ways of thinking, learning, communicating, and socializing. And non-visible disabilities, which is often referred to as invisible disabilities or non-apparent disabilities. The Invisible Disabilities Association defines the concept in simple terms. An invisible disability is a physical, mental, or neurological condition that is not visible from the outside, yet it can limit or challenge a person's movements, senses, or activities. Unfortunately, the very fact that these symptoms are invisible can lead to misunderstandings, false perceptions, and judgments. For today's event, It's Not Individual, It's the Game of Life, we will take you through different scenarios and situations that may come up during a normal quote-unquote normal workday. We will then hear from our players as they provide us with their insights and experience related to the particular event. Each of our players identifies as being neurodiverse or having a non-visible disability. The game's goal is to help educate, celebrate, and bring to light the differences between employees who are neurodiverse or live with a non-visible disability and their fully abled colleagues. Keep in mind that this could be your cubicle neighbor, IT person, or manager, and you may have no idea. Now, not knowing is okay, but making snap judgments about them and their ability level is not. So let's go find out about the rules of the game. It's important to understand spoons and why they're important to the game of life. The spoon theory was coined by Christine Messerodino years ago to assist in explaining to a friend what a chronic illness feels like. She described, each spoon represents a finite unit of energy. Healthy people may have an unlimited supply of spoons, but people with chronic illnesses have to ration them just to get through the day. It can work the same way for people who are neurodiverse or have a non-visible disability. As players draw their player cards, they will each receive a set number of spoons to start the game. This represents the energy they wake up with and their capability to handle daily tasks and challenges. Notice not every player will begin the day with the same number of spoons, as we all experience different levels of energy on a given day. Each player will take turns drawing life event cards and respond to the challenges or opportunities presented. These prompts will either drain or increase their energy spoon count. The players will then provide their unique perspective and insights into why a given situation may increase or decrease their spoon count. Once all players have made it to the final square, that will complete our game. Remember, this game is not about one individual winning. In fact, the object of this game is that everyone ends with the spoon or energy at the end of the day. If any player has no spoons at the end of the day, everyone loses. We're going to welcome your comments or questions, and I just want to remind you that you can use the link or scan the QR code that's going to be shown at the right-hand side of each slide from here on in. If we have time at the end of the game, we will ask our panelists your questions or highlight any particular meaningful comments. Okay, so now let's see who our players are for today's game. I'm going to go first. My name is Maxine Valle, and I'm also the parent of a neurodiverse adult child and an individual who is self-diagnosed as neurodiverse. I've been assigned the taskmaster role, and I'm starting this day with 10 spoons. Our first player is B, who's starting the day with 8 spoons. B, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Abigail Champeny-Johns, but I go by B. I work as a health and benefits specialist at Aon. I was born with a severe hearing loss. I wear hearing aids, and my first language is ASL.
Thank you, B. Now we're going to move on to our next player, which is John. John is starting the day with 9 spoons. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Maxine. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you guys are watching this. John Pagliarulo. I'm an actuarial risk consultant at WTW. I've been here for 17 years. I am a neurodivergent. I had spent most of my life self-diagnosed with Tourette. It's not a non-visible condition, so you kind of know when you have it. And interestingly enough, I got co-diagnosed with my son when I brought him to the doctor a couple of years ago. So that was a neat moment for us. I'm very happy to be here today and participate in this game.
Thank you, John. We're happy you're here too. Next, we have Lulu. Lulu's our third player. She's going to be starting with 10 spoons as well. Lulu, it's your turn to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name's Lulu. My full name is Madeline Champeny-Johns. I am B's twin as well. I am an actuarial technician at Aon. I've been here for a year. I'm also hard of hearing, and I've been fitted with hearing aids since 6 months old. And my first language is ASL as well.
Thank you, Lulu. And to round us out with our 4 contestants is Ron. Ron is starting the day with 4 spoons. Ron, please tell us about yourself.
Yes, Maxine. I've been with Markel as a special investigator for the last 7 years. My non-visible injuries are a traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress from the event that led to my traumatic brain injury.
And thank you all for your wonderful introductions and giving us some insight into each of you. We don't need any 2 and 2 breaks right now, so we're going to get started with the game. Everyone's going to be moving to the first space called the Good Morning space, although that may not necessarily be the case for everyone. Up first, we have B. We're going to have B roll the dice. Looks like B rolled a 2. Let's see where you land. Okay, it's a meeting square. We're going to go ahead and draw a card from the meeting deck. Your card reads, you look at your Outlook calendar and it's jammed with back-to-back meetings, some with the same people, so you'll be stuck in the conference room for at least 2 hours today. To make it worse, someone identified you as the youngest in the room and told you to take notes. This scenario has caused you to lose 5 spoons. Tell us why this long meeting impacts you, B.
For me, with long meetings, it is exhausting to keep up with meetings just because as a deaf person, I have to not only read lips, I have to read captioning, I have to try my best to accommodate hearing other people, and it's really, really hard just because I'm using much more energy in order to understand.
Okay, and then it's so difficult sometimes, how do you get through those meetings?
What I like to do, I like to plan ahead, but in this situation, sometimes, things come up. So what I would like to do, I would like to make sure that I have captioning set up, and that's something that I can use for transcripting. And then I would like to request some additional support from my colleagues during this meeting.
And B, I noticed you had to take notes as well. What's challenging about that?
For me, with note-taking, is I do a lot more multitasking than what another hearing person would do. Instead of normally when you would just listen and take notes, I would have to multitask between captioning, I would read a person's lips, and I would hear at the same time, but sometimes that just doesn't work out. So my focus is constantly moving around. I'm constantly going back with the transcript in order to get accurate notes, and it's just really, really exhausting just keeping up with multiple things happening at once.
And is there anything you can do to make that easier? I heard you mention transcript a couple of times. Is there anything else?
Yes. Not only do I do transcripts, I also receive additional support from my colleagues just because I opened up a conversation with them, just letting them know, hey, sometimes it's really hard for me to keep up. Could you provide some additional support? Just do some light note taking. That way I can fill in the gaps if I need to.
Awesome. Thank you, B, for giving us that additional insight. Okay, now we're going to be moving on to our next player, which is John. John, it's your turn. Let's see what you roll. Oh, looks like you rolled a 5. We're going to move your square. Oh boy, you've also landed on a meeting square. It's a busy morning. Let's draw from that meeting deck. Your card says you look at your Outlook calendar and it's jammed with back-to-back meetings, with some of them being the same people. So you're going to also be stuck in a conference room for at least 2 hours today. The conference room has no windows and the fluorescent lights are flickering. So what impact does this have on you, John?
So for my day, a 2-hour meeting is challenging because as someone with Tourette's, I tend to try to mask my tics when I can, whether it's vocal or whether it's a motor tic. So the longer they need to be masked, the more they build up in the background. The Tourette mind doesn't forget what it wanted to do. It really just, it puts it in limbo for a while. So being in a room for 2 hours is very challenging to be able to mask for that long, especially with the same people.
Okay, and I heard you, sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
I heard you mention masking. What does that mean?
So masking is essentially keeping a tic in. So a tic is an involuntary, whether it's a sound or a motion that you're doing with your body or your mouth or your eyes. Different Tourette patients have different tics. But masking is essentially kind of chewing them back for a while. That one requires energy. So it makes the meeting a little more exhausting. Like Bea said on her side, it is very exhausting to be in that room for 2 straight hours. The added element of the fluorescent lights is just mean here in this example. As someone with Tourette's, you're hyper aware. That's part of the condition, is that you're hypersensory and that you see everything, you hear everything, and to be able to and to have that be a bigger drain on focus would just be another element or another challenge for those meetings.
Okay, so it sounds like you do masking to help you get through some of the meetings. Is there anything else that you do?
I like to be prepared. Like B says, I would much rather know this 2-hour session is happening. So for me, being able to, whether it's chew gum or have a drink or use a masking technique that is a little more subtle. For instance, like there are ways I can compartmentalize my tics into something that are quieter or potentially under the table. But again, requires awareness.
And energy, it sounds like, because it looks like you lost 6 spoons because of this 2-hour meeting. So thank you, John, for giving us that additional insight into your meeting as well. Now we're going to move on to our next player, which is Lulu. Lulu, let's see what you roll. Oh, you've landed on a 4. And we're going to move you to your square. Looks like you've landed on a task. So let's take a card from the task card pile. You check your to-do list and realize you need to prepare to present a technical update to your department. The meeting is in less than an hour. Okay, Lulu. How does presenting drain your energy?
So for me, a lot of times I like to be very prepared. When I'm not prepared, it does induce a lot of anxiety and panic for me. I'm sure everyone can relate to this, but there's a little bit more reasoning behind mine. Is a lot of times for technical updates, there's a lot of verbal directions, information circulating out there as well as documented. And if I have a meeting that's less than an hour, a lot of times it's really hard for me to make sure I have all the facts on that technical update. And when I'm presenting, that's when I'll find out if I have everything on paper or not. And especially as one of the youngest people in Aon right now, a lot of times when I document, it is from verbal directions that I document. So a lot of times it's very hard for me to make sure that I caught everything and I heard everything as a deaf person. And if there is a technical update, it's really hard for me to make sure I have everything on paper.
Oh, thank you, Lulu. I totally get it. I understand. I like to be prepared as well. So to have to do something in less than an hour, yeah, that wouldn't be nice for me either. It looks like this caused you 4 spoons, though. So what impact does this loss of energy have on you?
It really makes me anxious for the rest of the day. It really makes me really tense. And a lot of times when I'm tense, it causes me to have anxiety. And I have found just over my entire life is that when I'm tense, I tend to make a little bit more mistakes than normal. So I try to relax right after this meeting, but it's really hard to do that, especially when I take it very personally on if I do a good job or not.
And I have just one last question for you. Can you dive into what's the worst part of this task? Is it the preparation or the physical presentation? And do things change whether they are virtual or in person?
For me, in this scenario, it's definitely the preparation, because that's the build-up to finding out if you have all the information or not. And a lot of times it's really scary, especially when you don't know if you have everything. And it is definitely very different if it's on virtual or in person. I definitely do understand a lot more virtually because, like similar to B, I have captions during that time. I also have notes, so I'm able to reference them. And if I have a transcript, that means that say I do miss something, I'm able to actually document that. And if it's in person, it can be difficult for me to document every single detail. But it also is easier because it's one-on-one, but it depends.
Oh, thank you, Lulu. You're opening my eyes with a lot of information that I didn't know about. So thank you. We're going to be moving on to Ron. Ron, it's your turn now. Let's have you roll the die. You've landed on a 3. We're going to move you to your space. There you go. And looks like you landed on a surprise card. Okay, so what does a surprise consist of? Let's see. You arrive at your desk and there's a balloon floating with a tag on it that says, Team Building Activity, 9 a.m., Cafeteria. You will build a tower with popsicle sticks to foster teamwork. Pop the balloon to RSVP. P.S. This is a mandatory event, and there will be coffee, and you will have fun. Okay, Ron, how does this surprise impact your day?
Thanks, Maxine. There's a couple things going on here. As a combat veteran that has had mortars fired at them, the popping of the balloon and any surprise noises are going to get my heart rate beating. I recall one time I was in the field and someone stood up and the folding chair that they were sitting in somehow collapsed and landed flat on the concrete. And that loud sound, before I knew it, myself and one other were underneath the table, thinking that we had been, taking us back to that combat experience. The other thing is that based off of my history, I'm a planner, and this surprise meeting coming up is going to interfere with what I had planned for my day. And my work is very important to me, so that puts me in a situation where you've interfered with my survivability, and I'm going to get more and more angry the longer the surprise event happens. I'm not so much against team building as much as the surprise bothers me more than the fact that it's a team building event.
Okay. Thank you for that, for letting us know that. And then I noticed your spoon count that went down. You went from 3 to 1. So I have a question for you, Ron. What are some things that help you replenish energy or your spoons during a workday?
In a worst case scenario, I have to break contact. What I found that is very beneficial with me not taking my anger out on others is to walk as fast and as long as I need to make the feelings dissipate. So my leadership works very well with me, that if I need to break contact and go for a walk, they allow that to occur. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. And now I'm going to actually go to our audience members. So this is where we get you to be interactive. So you're going to use your interactive device, whether it be a phone or a computer, and tell us how you recharge. What's your recharging method? And Ron, I think you just gave us some of the things that you like to do. Oh. I think there's some responses that you can put in there, some answers that you can give us for replenishing. Right. Looks like power nap is our big winner there. So thank you, Ron, for telling us how you replenish, and to all of you as well, audience, for letting us know your thoughts. We're going to be headed back to the game, and this turn we're going back to B again. B, it's time for you to roll that die. Let's see what you're going to get this time. You landed on a 4. Moving B to her spot on the game board there. All right. Looks like you made it to lunch. There's no card to draw for a lunchbox. What's that mean? So let's see what happens. Your work bestie just sent a message on Teams inviting you to lunch. They surprised you with your favorite coffee order. All right, so what's that mean for you, B? Why does this situation actually recharge you?
I think, first of all, just as a deaf person, I have to multitask so much and just allocate so much energy to multiple different things at once. So just having my work bestie just invite me out for lunch and surprising me with coffee just allows me to just turn off my brain disconnect from that multitasking and just calm down, reconnect with myself, reconnect with other people, and just, move on from whatever, if there's something happened in the morning or something, and I can just recharge and just calm down.
Yes, I think your coffee is going to probably help you get over your meeting.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So thank you. Remember, it's always important to step away from your desk once in a while and connect with a coworker or a friend during the day. With a lot of people still working remotely, it's important to make sure you continue to feel connected with others in your organization, especially if you're feeling isolated. All right, now we're going to go back to John. Here we come, John. It's your turn. Let's roll that die. All right, and you rolled a 3. Let's see where it lands. Oh, geez, you just can't cut a break. It looks like you're in another meeting. Let's see what this next card has in store for you. You've received a notification that a meeting was canceled. Now you can take time to stretch your legs and take a short walk to the coffee machine to recharge. Woohoo! Good for you, John. You get to recharge a little bit. So how does this recharge your energy?
Oh man, this is an absolute saving grace. I don't think I'm alone in that. I love when meetings are canceled. I believe all of us do, to be quite honest. It doesn't make a neurodivergent stick out there. But since we're talking about the same day here in this game of life, right? I've spent at least 2 hours in the morning stuck in meetings. So what this has done is this has probably created a big backlog in tasks, a backlog in emails, and part of my condition, I have itinerary anxiety. I don't like to have bubbles on my phone apps. I don't like to have parentheses in my Outlook. I like to take care of things immediately and right when they come through. So I'm going to have a lot of things that have carried over because of that morning meeting. So this is going to allow me to, 1, get the energy from the coffee, and 2, be able to clear off a lot of tasks in that time.
Thank you, John. Looks like you gained 3 more spoons because of the canceled meeting, which is great. So since John's going to get a chance to step away and stretch his legs, this may be a good time for everyone to recharge. Why don't you take a moment to stretch in your seats or stand up and shake it out? If you'd like, roll your shoulders in a circle, reach for the ceiling, touch your toes, take a deep breath in through your mouth, out through your nose. Okay, looks like everyone's gained a spoon from that little break. Now let's get back to the game. We're in the second half of the day, and now we're back to you, Lulu. Let's have you go on and roll. You've received a 6. Okay. Let's move you to your square. Looks like you've received a surprise. Depending on what card you draw, this could either replenish or diminish your spoons. Your manager forwards an invitation to you. This is a great networking opportunity, the email says. The invite is for a vendor happy hour at a popular bar downtown starting at 5 p.m. The bar is known for being noisy with dark ambient lighting and loud thumping background music. Think Spice Girls and 90s pop karaoke. So hearing that, Lulu, what challenges do happy hours present to you?
So there's a few things happening here. First of all, I feel like a lot of people can relate to me. I am an introverted extrovert. I believe that's the correct term. I am an extrovert when it comes to my friends and even my coworkers, family, but when it comes to strangers, I do tend to be introverted. And something about me, I am a very organized person, so I do like to be aware if a happy hour is going to come up, or even after work opportunity, or even during work. I just like to know a few days, even a day ahead of time. And so the first thing is the fact that I found out the day of that I will be going to this happy hour is a little bit like, oh, okay, I have to mentally prepare for that. And as much as I love networking, that is also why I'm going. But there's the second component part of this is the bar is known to be noisy with dark ambient lighting and loud music. As I stated before, as well as B, I lip read a lot. That is honestly how I get by in hearing situations. And if the bar is very dim, it will be very hard for me to read someone's lips. And any sort of volume I will catch it with hearing aids will be everything in my background and surrounding noises, including the person in front, I will catch in my hearing aids. So it's not like where you can direct your ear and the voice will come first, then the music. It will just be all at once. So that's the hardest part, is getting nervous, because like, oh my gosh, what if I had to stand there and nod and say yes, and it's supposed to be a no question, or even just open-ended question, and they just look at you like, oh.
Yeah, it sounds like preparation again would be a key component for you. So what do you do differently during happy hours to get through them?
Well, in this case, because I personally cannot recommend a quieter place, I tend to reach out to a lot of my coworkers who are aware of my hearing loss, and a lot of times they do know that I need to lip read or have a little bit of a quieter environment in order to communicate. So I would reach out to them and ask if they're going. If they are, then perfect. They understand me and what I need. So a lot of times they can help me like hear the question by speaking to me a little bit louder, closer to me, or even just help me navigate the person I'm talking to like a little bit of a quieter corner. Also, a lot of times I have found in happy hours, a lot of times when people are stepping out just for fresh air, a lot of people tend to follow out there, so we can also do that too.
Oh, thank you, Lulu. Like I said before, you all are definitely giving us additional insight to things that we might be oblivious to. But it also sounds like you've got some great coworkers or friends. Whether they know it or not, that small gesture that they make can make such a big difference.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, and now we're going to move on to Ron. Ron, you're up. Let's see what you roll this time. You rolled a 5, so let's see where that brings you. Okay, you've landed on a meeting square. We're going to draw that meeting card. And the meeting card says, in the afternoon, a junior colleague asks for a quick chat. They want your help to understand the concept you have a great knowledge about. This helps the colleague with an issue they were dealing with and increases their technical knowledge. So is this a challenge or an opportunity for positivity for you, Ron?
Maxine, for me, this is a positive opportunity. Unlike earlier, not liking the surprise meeting, I will gladly stop everything I'm doing to help a colleague. I love learning new things, and one of my mantras in life is, what's the sense in knowing how to do something if you can't share it with others? So being able to help somebody else is a very warming, comforting feeling for me.
That's great, Ron. It sounds like being able to assist others and helping where you can is going to boost your energy. Am I right?
You're absolutely correct. I'm going to be having a great afternoon and evening after helping someone else.
I'm glad to hear that. So here's another tidbit for our audience to take away. Remember, everyone is an individual. For Ron, helping someone or teaching them something they didn't know gives him a boost of energy. However, it might actually deplete someone else's. We want to keep those type of things in mind as well. Thank you, Ron. Now we're going to move back to B. And it looks like Ron went from 1 spoon to 9. All right, B, it's your turn to roll the dice. You rolled a 6. Let's get that B moving to the square that it needs to be on. Woohoo! Congratulations! Looks like you're the first one to reach the finish line with 8 spoons. You made it through the day. John, we're going to have you roll next. Let's see if you can make it to the finish line. You've rolled a 5. Let's move to your square. Awesome. Looks like you've also reached the finish line and you have 7 spoons. Lulu, you're up. Let's see what happens next. You've rolled a 3. As you move along, looks like you've also made it to the end. Congratulations to you as well. You've reached the end with 3 spoons. And Ron, you're our last player. Let's see if you can make it as well. And you've rolled a 6. Okay, so let's move you there to the end because I'm pretty sure you've made it. Yep, looks like you have. And you've ended your day with 9 spoons. So congratulations, everyone. So as we have ended the game, it looks like everyone's ended with at least 1 spoon. So we've won this game. But now I have some additional questions. What are the misconceptions made about you as an individual? How do people respond differently to you once you disclose your neurodiversity or non-visible disability? I'm going to stay in the same order of gameplay. B, so you're going to go first.
Thanks, Maxine. I think a common misconception that is made about me is just as a deaf person, I think it's just that we're not, capable of doing the same task as someone who is hearing. As a deaf person, I just wanted to note that being deaf is a spectrum. Everyone functions differently. Everyone has different accommodations. And it's important to keep in mind that if you ever interact with another deaf person, that not one experience will be the same as another deaf person. And just do not, underestimate, a deaf person. We are just as equivalent as you are. And we can just do just as good a job as you can do.
Thank you, B. And John, what about you?
It's very similar to B and probably Lulu and Ron as well, but I've heard the phrase competency bias recently, and that's something that I think affects a lot of people, but for me particularly, and the Tourette community at large. Anybody who's ever who's encountered Tourette's, whether it's a movie or a TV show, it generally happens to be done in a punchline way, right? Whether it's comedically disruptive or something to laugh at. Most of what you see there is the extreme version of Tourette's. It's not the everyday version. You'll notice that I am an iceberg. That's been my avatar here for the game, and that's no surprise. That's meant to represent the fact that there's not just the tics that you see and hear, but there's a lot that goes underneath with it. And I think that competency bias is something that, like B said, we're not incapable. If anything, it's the complete opposite. I know the people I've met in the Tourette community, the hyper awareness I've talked about before, it's allowed me at least, to become an actuary. Those tests don't pass themselves, right? So it definitely allows you to learn more, I think, and take in more things.
Thank you, John. And that's a great avatar that you have, because I think everyone in the neurodiverse and non-visible disability realm could be an iceberg. There's a lot going on. It's not just the neurodiverse, status or the non-visible disability that makes you who you are. There's a lot more that's going on. Yeah, awesome. So, Lulu, it's your turn.
Thanks, Maxine. Just to reflect what everyone has been saying, the misconception I typically get when I tell people I am hard of hearing is I walk among both the deaf and the hearing community a lot. And I went to a hearing school, so the most common thing I've noticed that people tell me is 2 things. One, wow, you speak so well for a deaf person. And then another one is, wow, you're actually pretty smart for a deaf person. And it just takes me back on how forward they can be. And I think the most common misconception, I feel like anyone who has neurodiversity or even a hidden disability or even a visible one, is that people tend to question a lot of our level of intellect. And something that I would like to heavily reflect on what John and B have been saying is pretty much just to understand that just because we have a disability or neurodiversity or just any other condition, it does make us different in the sense of I like to think of it a little bit more unique, but it doesn't make us, it doesn't make us have a decreased level of intellect or anything like that. In fact, I think, honestly, we work a little bit harder because we have more to prove, if that makes sense.
It definitely does. Thank you, Lulu. And then we're going to be finishing up with Ron. Ron, what is it that's the misconception? What are some of the biggest misconception for you?
Maxine, I think the biggest thing that for me is that when people learn that I'm a combat wounded veteran and have a traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress as a result of that, is that they feel sympathy for me. And I don't need sympathy. Like, I'm comfortable in my own skin. Yes, I may have to work harder to achieve the same results as my coworkers to my left and right, but that doesn't mean that I can't function as well as they do. I can function just as well as they do, if not better. So I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here to talk about openly so that I can encourage people, if you've got a mental health issue, to seek treatment.
Thank you, Ron. So you're not looking for sympathy, you're looking for empathy. I think everyone can appreciate having empathy at certain times, right? So if someone can put themselves in your shoes and allow you to give that knowledge, I think that might be something that each of you would probably appreciate, right? To be able to give some insight to someone who may not know, like you're doing today. So it looks like we might have some time for questions, but before we get to that, I want to make sure that we allow our panelists, our game players, to tell us or to leave the audience with one thing that they'd like to give away. So I'm gonna, again, start this in the same order. B, what's one takeaway you want the audience to go away with?
I think one of the main takeaways that I want the audience to take away with is to just keep an open mind. I think it's important just to be aware of your surroundings and be aware of if you have a colleague that has a disability or neurodiversity. But I think it's just important that you keep that in account constantly, just because self-advocating for someone or for yourself can be exhausting, and just creating a space for someone to just be themselves without even have to constantly advocate for themselves is really important. So just constantly keep an open mind, just keep them in the back of your head, just being like, hey, I can help, I can be your friend in this situation, and that's something that's really, really important.
Thank you, B. Oh, I have a feeling we're going to get some great takeaways from our game players here. Next, John, you're up. What's your takeaway?
Takeaway, neurodiversity is not a learning disability. It's a neurological condition. So first off, secondly, exactly what B said. She kind of stole my thunder there in that find a support system. I know advocating is tough, but it's extremely valuable, like more than valuable. So find a support system. I think most big corporations have them, and if they don't, create the support system. I think that is extremely valuable to have in a corporation.
Thank you, John. Lulu, you're next in line.
I think, honestly, what is important, honestly, just to reflect off of both John and B, is if you have a colleague, friend, family member who states that they need accommodations, definitely remember that. But there are some situations where you do find out that someone has a disability, but do not assume that they need the same accommodations as someone else you may know that have the same disability or neurodiversity. So definitely make it a safe space and able to be open to their needs for accommodations. But something that's definitely very important is also not to assume that they need the same accommodations, because that can be really frustrating for some people.
Thank you, Lulu. See, I told you, audience, we're getting some good takeaways here. Last but not least, we have Ron. What's the last thing you want the audience to take away?
Yes, Maxine. My last parting thought is, as a leader several years ago, I learned challenge your first instincts. when you hear that somebody has a condition, don't assume the stereotypical vision of that condition. Challenge that thought, and don't think that everybody with that condition reacts the same way. Things that trigger me are, I'm sure, very different from others, and it's based off of what caused me to have post-traumatic stress and my genetic makeup prior to that. So everybody's different, but we're all in this together. One team, one fight.
I love that. That was some great advice. I love the fact that you all are just making us so aware of the things that we may not have been paying attention to. And before we get to our Q&A section, I just want to remind everyone moves through the day in their own unique way. It's not about how many spoons you have at the end of the day. It's about making sure that you and those around you don't run out, right? So just like we heard from the advice being given, you want to be able to help advocate for those that might have that might be a part of the neurodiverse community, or that have non-visible disabilities, or disabilities that can be seen. You want to be able to advocate for them, help them, try to understand where they're coming from so that you can give them some assistance. All right, so it looks like, and the other thing I want to say is everyone needs to give each other grace, right? We need to remember that being neurodiverse or not having a non-visible disability doesn't mean that you're incapable. They're just doing things in a way that works for them, and that's okay. Life goes on, but empathy and understanding makes it much easier for all of us. All right, so it looks like we do have some free time for questions and questions to come up here. And one of the first questions we have, and I'm gonna open this up for any of our game players. What can we do to help make a more supportive workplace? Who wants to take that away?
I can go, Maxine.
Thanks, B.
I think what's important is, obviously different people have different comfort levels and such, but at least in my boat, what I would think is having that conversation with your colleague, like just pulling them aside, or if you find, a chance to meet with them one-on-one and just asking, what can I do? Because everyone is different. Everyone has different comfort levels. Everyone has different accommodations. And I think it's really, really important that, your colleague knows that you are in their corner, and that you just take account with whatever your colleague discusses with you, and then you strive to just improve the space for them and for yourself, and just to make sure that everyone is comfortable.
Oh, that's a great takeaway. Thank you for giving that information. I think that's something we can all do. That's an action plan that we can actually do. Thank you, B. Our next question is for John. How do you stay focused in meetings while masking? I find myself getting distracted by my own masking efforts and unable to pay attention.
That's a wonderful question and extremely multi-layered. I'd say for me personally, I have essentially self-taught myself how to mask in the least obvious way possible. Like I said, whether it's converting the whistling into a foot tap, or something with my fingers under the table. So for me, it's been a personal self-taught journey. I do know there are some organizations out there, especially for the Tourette organization, where they can put you in touch with an actual doctor or provider that can do what's called cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's a way for you to redistribute those urges into something that's a little more subtle. So for me, I've just learned how to get good at it in my life.
Thank you, John. I hope that helped our audience member. And then, Ron, I'm going to throw this question to you. What advice or suggestions would you give to a manager who has employees who identify as neurodiverse or having a non-visible disability?
So the biggest thing is just communicate with them. That's something that my leadership has done tremendously well. My manager and I have had communications on, hey, there's a certain line of business that I cannot handle the claims, and they're aware of that. And all of my leadership, if a claim from that line of business gets assigned to me, I'm like, hey, can't do this, remember? And they take it in stride and automatically get it reassigned. They don't judge me based off of that. Going back to what I initially said, communicate. What modifications to the workspace workload does that individual need? Don't assume that based off of their neurodiversity that, Ron works for me, he's got this injury. Jack, I'm going to treat him the same way. You can't do that. You just got to communicate with each individual. And a popular term as of late is meet people where they're at.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Meet people where they're at. Thank you, Ron. So this question's for all of you, I think. Is it better if your colleagues gives you a safe space? I know that in particular, this is with regards to masking, but I think it can be asked across the board. I guess on top of that, what would you consider a safe space?
I can speak to that too, Maxine. And this is not for the other panelists, this is for me specifically. I don't need a safe space. However, I do enjoy being comfortable in my own skin, and that work understands my challenges and allows me to function at my maximum potential.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
I can add to that if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
I think the best thing you can do is just make people aware that it is a safe space instead of assuming or jumping in. They might not be ready to tell people that they're either having a disability or neurodivergent, or they just might not want people to know. I know there have been some situations where I don't tell people I'm hard of hearing at times because I don't know what their reactions are going to be, because I've gotten really bad reactions in the past. But something that made me really comfortable, because I did apply to Aon, and I did not let people know that I was hard of hearing. It's just something I just did as a general, applying to other places as well. And when I did end up coming here, I spent a few days just to gaze how friendly and welcoming people were, and the people at the Aon office, particularly the Seattle office, is very welcoming, very open, and they are one of the most friendliest people I know. So it made me super comfortable to start reaching out about captioning, about interpreters during large sessions and all that stuff. And it really, really is the best way, is honestly just making sure you're friendly and welcoming to people, and you never know. You may never know.
Yeah, you're right. You definitely may never know. You're right. Thank you, Lulu. And I want you to answer the next question. So let's have you come back off mute here. And what would you say is the greatest challenge in the workplace today?
Oh, sorry. Was that still for Lulu?
Yeah, I was throwing it at Lulu
sorry.
first. You can jump in after, John.
Got it.
I think the greatest challenge in the workplace today is also a blessing, as well as how constantly the workplace changes. Something that I feel like is the biggest challenge is just learning what the workplace is. It is constantly changing, but I feel like the biggest challenge, I feel like just overall with human race, is assumptions. Is the largest issue, because a lot of people tend to not understand that we are perfectly capable of getting things done. We may just have to do it a little bit differently. But there are people out there that really want things done their way and only their way. And I feel like in my personal experience, there's been a lot of difficulty with me being able to have them understand that, oh, I just need a little bit more time writing notes or communicating with you just to make sure I understand everything. Because I don't know if I missed anything. And they think, oh, I verbally spoke to you, so everything's done. And you can just jump to the task immediately. So there was a lot of like friction there, but I feel like that is the largest, personally for me, the issue with the book 50.
Thank you, Lulu. And John?
Yeah, sorry about that. Nothing like an actuary to be awkward in front of other people. For me personally, it's been this, it kind of touches on what Lulu said about things changing. The fact that we're in a lot more of a virtual world than we used to be. You know, sharing your screen, especially for me, sharing your face and being on screen can be a little challenging for my personal anxiety of I'm aware that you're aware, you know, right? So I'm constantly looking at the screen and making sure things are, you know, part of the masking is exactly that. So the virtual world was a wrinkle for me.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And I know so many folks think that the virtual world is great. See, but everyone's individual. So thank you, John. I know we're getting close to the end of our session here, end of the game. But I want to just ask, I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and the last is going to be a little bit lighthearted, so we leave with a good feeling today. But the next question I want to ask is, what advice would you give to someone who is tentative in communicating their neurodiversity that may not be as obvious?
Maxine, I'm happy to take this.
Sure, Ron.
First, I'd say rip the Band-Aid off. That's my initial inclination. And again, I don't speak for everybody because everybody is going to, on this panel, is going to digest this question differently. One, I hope that your workspace makes you feel comfortable enough. But 2, once you make it known that you have these needs, it's going to be a huge form of relief rather than trying to hide who you are and be afraid that the information is going to leak out, that you need, you know, modifications. Just make that leap and let people know so that you can be your true self ing forward.
Can I add something?
Of course.
Something that's been etched in both B and I's mind by our mother, that honestly helped us tremendously. Telling people is something that might help you with your anxiety on letting people know, is know your rights. Know the laws that protect you, and the accommodations that come with it. For me, I can request an interpreter and it will not cost me a dime. I have the right to request an interpreter for a situation, whether it's a smaller group or a larger group. I also I hope this never happens to anybody, but definitely when you tell someone, just know your rights so you are able to protect yourself, but also your colleagues. It just will help you a lot.
Okay, and we look like we're getting right to the end here, so I'm just going to ask, I'm going to ask you, B, as the last question, so that I can get to our thank yous. Last question: what's the funniest assumption someone's made about your disability? Mine is that deaf people can't drive.
I worked in college as a server, and it was in a bar. So oftentimes I would have to report people if there was a lot of miscommunication, and I'll be like, "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" And I would just tell them, I'm hard of hearing. It's a little loud in here. Could you please be more patient? And this woman looked at me and was like, "Wow, you're so pretty for a deaf person." And yeah, I was stunned. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm not sure where that came from. I'm not sure what concept she had in her head about deaf people, but that was the funniest interaction I've ever had. I did not know what to say. I was not expecting that.
Well, thank you, B. Thank you all. Thank you all to all of our game players, our speakers, to our local sponsors. Thank you to our global sponsors. And we want to give a special thanks to our graphic designer, Nick Ramos, who created our game board and the pieces and the avatars. He did such a great job. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of who he is, because he might be able to help you out too. So there's his information. We hope that if you weren't able to get any answers to the questions you were looking for, that you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. And again, here are the objectives for this year's dive-in. And have a great rest of the day, everyone.